information necessary to recreate your memories, your sensations, your feelings, that in some sense, yeah, you can teleport your soul.
Okay, somewhat related. Wahib Ati asks, what is the purpose of life, and do you think humanity has a special role in the universe?
Well, one of the biggest questions in all of science is, what is the place of humanity in the universe? All our discoveries, all our yearnings, in some sense point to that one grand question. What is our purpose, our role? Why are we here? Well, you have to separate two things. First of all, when Galileo was asked about purpose, religion, science, he said the following. He said the purpose of science is to determine how the heavens go. The purpose of religion is to determine how to go to heaven. So, in other words, science is about natural law. We want to know the laws that govern objects, things, living things, inanimate things, the laws. While religion is about ethics. It's about how to lead a good life. It's about how to be a good person. It's about how to go to heaven. It's about purpose. It's about goals. You see, science does not tell us what the purpose of life is. Science does not tell us that we have to have certain kinds of endeavors that are spiritual. Religion does say this, and the problem is when someone who's scientific begins to pontificate about ethics, or a religious person pontificates about natural law, that's where we get into trouble. Therefore, I don't think science tells us what the purpose of life is. However, I personally have my own beliefs. I personally believe that we create our own purpose. That is, it's too easy. It's too easy to have somebody up there with a beard giving us the purpose of life. That's a cop-out. I think that we create our own purpose. We have to be mature. We have to grow up. Our purpose is not going to be given to us by some scroll from outer space. We have to create our own destiny.
Okay, next question. I think it's on everyone's mind. Many of your fans ask this question. Owen Alito asks, where are all the aliens? If there's intelligent life out there with minds equal or greater than our own, what form will it take? But there's so many habitable worlds. Where are the aliens? Why aren't they visiting? Or are they?
Well, that's the Fermi paradox. We've identified 4,000 planets going around other stars in our own backyard. We think that in the galaxy, however, our own backyard, the Milky Way, there are billions of Earth-like planets. To assume that we're the only game in town, I think, is presumptuous. Therefore, where are they? Well, you may say to yourself, why don't they land on the White House lawn? Why don't they come out and simply say, here we are, folks. We're going to give you the benefits of advanced technology. Well, look at it this way. If you're in the forest and you meet a squirrel or a deer, do you talk to them? Well, maybe initially you do, but after a while you get bored because they don't talk back to you. They don't have anything interesting to tell you about their life as a squirrel or life as a deer. Or if you meet a bunch of ants in an anthill, do you go down and say, I bring you trinkets, I bring you beads, I give you nuclear energy, take me to your ant queen? Or perhaps you have this politically incorrect urge to step on a few of them. So I think if they're that advanced, that they can go thousands of light years to reach the planet Earth, we have nothing to offer them. I mean, what do we have to offer alien civilizations that advanced? Now, I think that the movie 2001 had it right. In the movie 2001, the aliens were observing us. We were not much to sneeze at. But we went to the moon, made contact with their obelisk on the moon. We became a type 1 civilization. In other words, we're type 0 right now. Once we attain type 1 status, we become interesting. We have planetary culture, planetary art, planetary science, the resources of an entire planet to probe the mysteries of the universe. At that point, we become interesting. So I think that as we reach for the moon, as we go into outer space, as we become planetary by the end of the century, at that point, perhaps aliens will want to contact us. Now, are they going to be evil? Are they going to be nasty? Perhaps. So I think we should not advertise our existence. That's not a good idea. Look what happened to Montezuma when he encountered Cortez. Cortez demolished the Aztec Empire within just a few months. So I don't think we should advertise our existence. But I think for the most part, they're going to be peaceful. How do I know that? Because they're not going to want to plunder the Earth because, well, there are plenty of uninhabited planets to plunder. A lot of planets out there with minerals and riches. They don't have to plunder the Earth. They can go to other planets, millions of them, that perhaps have no intelligent life on them at all. And so when are we going to make contact with them? I think in this century. Let me stick my neck out. I think that in this century, we'll pick up a radio conversation of aliens talking to each other. We won't be able to respond back to them because they're thousands of light years away. But yeah, I do think we'll pick up an emission from an intelligent alien civilization, perhaps sometime in this century.
Okay, here's a question that I've always wanted to ask. It seems to me that reality that physics describes goes beyond the limits of language to describe it. String theory, for example. Do you think mathematics unlocks doors and explains the universe in the way that human language cannot? And does that make these insights only available to those who know the math?
Well, believe it or not, we physicists have asked the question, why can't a dog learn calculus? Believe it or not, we've discussed this philosophical question. Are humans different than dogs? Well, try to explain calculus to your dog, and you begin to realize that, well, they just don't have, quote, the smarts, unquote. So then the question is, what does separate the human mind from the animal mind? And are there limits to what the human mind can learn? Well, first of all, if you take a look at animals, I think, are conscious. I think they have feelings. They're conscious in a way that is different from our consciousness. Alligators have spatial consciousness, as I mentioned in my book, The Future of the Mind. They understand space, where the prey is, where food is located, where mates are located. Alligators understand space. Now, mice and wolves and dogs, they understand social hierarchy, emotions. They understand the societal constraints of living in a pack. So what are we? Do we have spatial consciousness? Yes. Do we have social consciousness? Yes. What separates humans from animals? What separates us is that we have time, temporal consciousness. We are time machines. We plot, scheme, daydream constantly. We constantly rerun simulations of the future. That's why we separate ourselves from the animals. Now, let's do an experiment. Go home tonight and talk to your dog and teach your dog the meaning of tomorrow. You can't do it. Animals do not understand tomorrow. They have no conception of tomorrow. Now, we, on the other hand, simulate the future. Therefore, can we understand the secrets of the universe itself? And I think yes, for two reasons. First, we have accumulated knowledge, the knowledge just of one mind, but the knowledge of thousands of minds that preceded us. So when Einstein discovered relativity, he built on the work of Newton, who in turn built on the work of the ancient Greeks. And so we have the accumulated wisdom of the entire civilization behind us. That's the first reason. And second reason is more important. The brain simulates the future. This means we have to have an abstract way of simulating the future, and that's why we can do math. Math, in some sense, is our way of symbolizing, simulating the future. After all, why did we discover numbers? Because we had to keep track of how many sheep and how many goats we had, and what happens if you sell them, so on and so forth. So we had to keep track in time of our possessions, and that's why we invented numbers. And so I think, yes, there are almost no limits to what the human mind can comprehend. And I think we are about to have the theory of everything. We have string theory already. String theory can be summarized by one equation. That's my equation. I'm the co-founder of string field theory, which summarizes all of string theory into an equation about 1 inch long. But now we have membranes. Now we have a theory called M theory. M theory is not yet in its final form. But I think because we are humans, because we can simulate the future, because we have abstract thought, we will ultimately find the complete theory of everything that includes strings and membranes, a complete theory of M.
Okay, we have a hard stop at 10, so another 7 minutes or so. Here's a question veering off in another direction from Sahil Dar, who asks, according to a professor at Indiana University, every black hole may hold a universe. Is this possible?
Well, there are many speculations as to what happens if you fall into a black hole. Children at planetariums often say, "Mommy, Daddy, where do you go if you fall into a black hole?" Well, the short answer is we don't know. However, there are theories. If you work out the mathematics of black holes, spinning black holes, it turns out they don't collapse to a dot. Spinning black holes collapse to a ring. And if you fall through the ring, you don't die. You wind up on another universe, like the Looking Glass of Alice. The Looking Glass of Alice connects Wonderland to the countryside of Oxford, so that when Alice stuck her hand through the looking glass, she went to another parallel universe. That is what the mathematics tell us. Now, if you saw the movie Interstellar, starring Matthew McConaughey, a Hollywood movie, it was the advisor to that Hollywood movie was a Nobel Prize winner in physics. Kip Thorne won the Nobel Prize last year, and he was a scientific consultant where you saw the animation of what happens when you go through the wormhole, perhaps to another sector of the universe. So what does it look like? It looks like matter spewing out the other end, which we call a white hole. So when a black hole sucks matter in, the matter is blown out the other end as a white hole. Now, doesn't that sound like the Big Bang? Doesn't that sound like all of a sudden matter spewing out of nowhere, creating an entire universe? So there are some physicists who think that, well, maybe the Big Bang is nothing but a white hole that connects us to a black hole. Now, what does the latest cosmological data tell us? The latest cosmological data gives us what is called inflation, that the universe had this turbocharged expansion at the beginning of time, but it was a quantum event. In quantum mechanics, if it happened once, it can happen again, and again, and again. Big bangs can happen all the time, giving us a multiverse of universes. So think of a bubble bath, where bubbles constantly peel off other bubbles. Bubbles collide. This is called the multiverse idea. And it's idea that is also given to us by string theory. String theory has not just one solution, but many solutions. Each solution being a bubble of some sort. These bubbles can collide or fission to create baby bubbles, and that is the Big Bang. So we think that, yes, universes may be created by the collision of other universes, and perhaps that's the reason why we had the Big Bang.
Back to the future of humanity. Aziz Dagam asked, do you support the transhumanist movement?
Well, it depends on what you mean by the transhumanist movement. If you're talking about eugenics, I don't support that, because that can give us all sorts of different kinds of deviant philosophies. Look at the Nazis. The Nazis wanted to create a master race by exterminating people who were not members of the master race. So I think we have to be very careful. However, when we explore the stars, it may be a question of necessity. We may not have a choice in the matter. If life becomes inhospitable on the planet Earth, or we want to create settlements in outer space, we may have to modify ourselves. For example, to modify ourselves to adjust to gravity, which is lighter or stronger. Oxygen content, the air we breathe, we may have to change our metabolism rate. And also our eyesight, our senses may have to be modified slightly. And so I think that, yeah, we should think about transhumanism to a degree. Now, some people say, therefore, that why don't we go all the way? That is, put our brain in a vat of liquid so we become super brains living in a vat of liquid, or have electrodes coming out of our head.